Hi, you're watching Dog Your Musings, and I'm Monika, and I thought I would shake things up a bit, and I asked you guys on the internet what books I should read. So today we're going to be making a selection from those choices from my magic bowl. Whoa. Alright, so let's talk about what are the choices. The first one up is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. This book is about a young girl who lives on an Ojibwe reservation who finds herself involved in a criminal scandal trying to figure out a potential murder. I've heard a lot of hype about this book, including our state's university just did a big read that focused on this book, and I've heard a lot of really good things about it. And one thing that I thought was interesting about this book is it focuses a lot on hockey, which is one of the sports that I actually enjoy, surprisingly enough. So I'm excited to potentially read more about this book and see what the mystery about it is all about. The next book is Violeta by Isabel Allende. This book is historical fiction. It's based on a family scandal that happened in the 1920s, but it spans throughout time. It's set in an unnamed country in South America. What I thought was really interesting about this book is it's told in letter form, and I really like books that are told in either journal entry or letter form, so I think that might be really interesting. And I've also just been really curious about Allende's work. I've heard just super amazing things about her as a writer, especially her prominence within the scope of magical realism. The third book that I might get to pick is Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Tsujimura. Now this book seems like really interesting. It's about a group of teenagers who, it sounds like the worst group project ever. They find a hole behind a mirror that leads to a tunnel where they go into like this magical world where they have to go through this quest, and if they don't accomplish the quest at hand, the queen, who is a fox or a wolf, eats them. It sounds really intense, and from people who've read this book, I've heard that it is just a really heartbreaking book. So I'm equally intrigued and also nervous about if this book is selected, because it seems really intense. Next book is Fever Dream by Samanta Schweblin. This book is eerie. I haven't heard a lot about it because people try to keep the reviews pretty short since it's a pretty short book. From what I've heard about it is it takes place in a hospital between two patients who are there and kind of their formed family. But it's a lot less heartwarming and more eerie and fever dreamy than kind of how the description describes it. It's described as unsettling, eerie, and a nightmare came to life. So it sounds like an experience. And Schweblin has been on my list of authors who I'm really curious to read for a while. So if I get to pick this one, I'll be really excited to pick it up. The next book on this list is H is for Hawk by Helen Macdonald. Now, my friend from high school recommended this book to me, and a fun fact about me, which maybe I shouldn't say on the internet, is I am really afraid of birds. And this book is about birds. It's about a famous scientist who is learning to train hawks after the passing of her father. Now, my friend knows that I am terrified about birds, which is why she picked this book for me. But she also knows that I really like books that explore the lens of grief and how we cope with grief and go through grief. And so this kind of seems like a really interesting lens, and maybe this will help me get over my fear of birds, but I'm not promising anything. And the last option that we have is Out There by Kate Folk. This looks like it's a short story collection of like eerie modern kind of vignettes where it seems sort of like Black Mirror-esque, where it's about like modern technology and kind of effects on society and just weird tech stuff. But it seems really interesting. I'm not giving the description justice. I also am a real fan of dystopian books and kind of a critique on how we walk through the world now, so it'll be really interesting to see how those new themes are conveyed in these stories. So let's do what we all came here for, or what you didn't come here for, in which case exit out of the video now if you don't care about what book I'm gonna read. All right, it looks like the book that I will be reading is Firekeeper's Daughter. So I'm going to go ahead and place a hold on that at the library and tune in soon for a book review on this book. Coming up soon. That's been it for this week's of Dog-Eared Musings. I'm Monika, and happy reading. Also, if you have any recommendations of books that I should read next, my TBR is always growing. Feel free to add them in the comments below. Bye.